This is The After Party, live with Kim McAllister. Pick a couch, grab a drink, and settle into the conversation.
Live. Wait, that's Tim Sika. Hey, Tim
Hi,
Sika,
Kim.
what's going on? Hi.
Hey, I was going to say a whole lot, and yet at the same time, not a whole lot. It depends on how you want to look at it, right? Yeah.
It
yeah.
is.
How are you?
I'm okay. Yeah. We're recording this later after the real after party. This is kind of like an after party addendum because Tim had a heck of a time with internet at his house today. So
Yeah, and you know it's funny, Kim. It happened literally, I think like maybe 20 minutes before I was supposed to go on, and then it immediately went back on at something like a minute before the show ended. So it made me think like, what, is somebody just not wanting me to be on the show today or something? I don't mean you. I mean some kind of, whatever, some kind of other outside interference or something. Anyway, I don't know.
Well, what we did want to make sure that people got the movie reviews from Tim Sika, because I know I'm somebody who can't live without this before the weekend. You might be too. So we wanted to make sure and get this to you. So we're recording it now. We'll post this video on Friday night, and then I'll probably roll it again on Monday for those that didn't get a chance to see it. This is At the Movies with Tim Sika.
Yes.
There it is. At the Movies with Tim Sika. Can't do anything without that.
Yeah.
All right. So what do you have for us today, sir?
Okay, well, I was thinking to begin and then to end this week's segment with like a good movie, maybe throw in an okay one in the middle, and then leave the not so good stuff to fill in the middle, right? So having said that, I'll start with a good one. And the first good movie this week that we're going to talk about is The Last Stop in Yuma County, which was a real surprise to me and a super fun thrill ride of a movie. First of all, it's this stylish noir. It's sort of like in the tradition of early Coen brothers, like maybe like a Blood Simple kind of movie. And the setup is that there's this knife salesman. He's played by Jim Cummings, who stops at this remote desert location filling station somewhere in the Arizona desert. It's unspecified where exactly, but it's very dry and it's very, dusty and everything. And anyway, he's run out of gas. But the filling station proprietor informs him that the station's gas pumps are empty, they're dry, but a supply of gas is on the way. And since the next station is over 100 miles away, and since this knife salesman's car is on empty, he has no other recourse but to wait. So the station owner suggests that the knife salesman might want to wait it out at the cafe next door, right? The gas is going to be here soon. You can grab a cup of coffee. FYI, they have great rhubarb pie over there too.
Okay.
In fact, they're famous for their rhubarb pie. And also, in fact, there's a sign outside the cafe that says, "You'll die for our rhubarb pie."
Uh-oh.
And you think, yeah, right. You think, uh-oh, well, that's an interesting choice of words. And one that kind of turns out to be somewhat prophetic, let's just say.
No. Is it
So
a
anyway,
horror movie?
Well, the night salesman goes to the cafe to wait for the gas truck to show up, and what transpires at the cafe while he's waiting? Well, you just have to watch this movie to find that out, because no spoilers here. But what I can say about what follows in terms of this as being one hell of a recommendable movie is that this particular movie's nail-biting, suspenseful sequence of events will keep you literally on the edge of your seat. And I am not kidding. I'm not overinflating. I'm not exaggerating. I think it was Nick Shager of the Daily Beast who described this movie as having anxiety-laced pacing.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, I can't remember, Kim, the last time being put through the ringer like this in a movie. And I mean that as a compliment to how well this movie works. It's stylish, it's entertaining, it's very violent. It's written and directed by this guy named Francis Galuppi, whose work I'm unfamiliar with. But what this filmmaker has wrought here is this supremely confident amalgam of performance and writing and music and scripting, and a shocking and perversely humorous blend of horror and black comedy that just keeps going to places that are surprising, startling, and completely unpredictable. It's pure entertainment. I doubt that there's any deep meaning here, although I guess you could read stuff into it if you wanted to. But I was so jittery through the whole movie. I wasn't even going there. I just was on the edge of my seat. The feeling I had watching it was like, you know, when you're at an amusement park and you decide to ride the monster roller coaster, you go up that first hill, you know, slowly up that roller coaster hill, higher and higher, and you're thinking, God, whenever will this get to the top already so I can scream my guts out as it descends from that first big dip? Anyway, that's what I felt like watching this movie, only I just kept going slowly up this steep hill, and it wasn't until the end that I was able to, like, you know, scream, and because I was going down the big hill. Anyway, it's a terrific movie. It's one of those movies where I thought, really? Oh, God, I got to watch this. Okay, I'll watch it. And I was completely taken by surprise.
So would you call it a thriller, a horror movie, an adventure movie? What?
I would call it probably, well, it's like a film noir, meaning that nothing really turns out well for any of the characters. Yeah. But I would say it's closest to a sort of a horror thriller. Yeah.
Okay, horror thriller.
Only it's like it's actually kind of believable. I mean, it's like a nightmare that somebody would have, but every single thing about it makes sense. Yeah. It all unfolds in a way where, like, this could happen. The timing on everything is just so unfortunate for a lot of these people that happen to be in this cafe while all this stuff is happening. Yeah. It's terrific. I just loved it, and I hope I'm not overselling it, but it's a good movie. It's the first good movie of the week.
Is it in the theaters?
Yes, it's in theaters, and as of today, I believe it's on VOD. So if you want to buy it, you know, to rent, it's probably, I don't know what the cost is, but yeah, you can watch it at home too. I happen to see it at home. I can't imagine seeing this in the theater. I'd be screaming I would be screaming my lungs out.
It's interesting that the color of rhubarb pie is red.
Oh yeah. Have you ever had rhubarb pie?
Yeah, I have my niece, it's her favorite pie, loves it.
Yeah, it's so funny. One of the characters in the movie says, rhubarb. He goes, that's a vegetable, ain't it? And the waitress says, yeah, it is. And he goes, no, thanks. Yeah.
All right.
Anyway, it's a good one. It's a good one.
This next one is Spacy Unmasked. I don't know. Do we want to see Kevin Spacey and all of his weirdness and all the stuff that's going on with him?
Yeah. Well, that's up to the viewer, I guess. Yeah, this is an HBO documentary feature, and I want to say it's about Kevin Spacey, the actor, and it is to a point, but its focus is on, it's like eight or it might be 10, I can't remember, 8 or 10 men. And these men were not involved in that recent 2023 trial where Spacey was accused of having allegedly sexually assaulted 4 men, but he was acquitted of all those charges. He was found innocent by a jury of his peers. The 10 men here in this movie have never told their stories before, and here they all are assembled and coming forth for the first time with testimony that spans 5 decades. Wow. Because there's one or two other people that knew him when he was younger, and I think one of the guys was a high school classmate of his, about how Spacey sexually assaulted them. So yeah, where to start with this movie? For starters, Kevin Spacey's older brother Randy is interviewed on camera, and he talks about his and his brother Kevin's upbringing. It's pretty awful stuff. I don't know if you know anything about his past, but according to Randy, the father was an actual Nazi party member. He was a monster who held Nazi party meetings at their home and who raped the brother repeatedly and regularly, beat him with a riding crop till he was like unconscious. Oh God. While apparently the mother just sat idly by doing nothing. So it was contended by Kevin's brother Randy in this movie that acting was something Kevin pursued as a way of escaping what was going on in the home because it was so horrible. Kevin was never apparently either sexually assaulted or beaten by his father, but his brother Randy was on a regular basis. Anyway, so yeah, this movie brings up a lot of issues. It's not unassailable as a documentary. I mean, for one, its music score does this. It does this thing. It does way too much editorializing, right? At times, it even comes across like you might be watching a horror movie. Right. And I get why they did it, but they really didn't need to do that. And the film clearly has this agenda, which is okay, because I think it's perfectly fine for a documentary to take a stand on an issue and make a case for its subject. And in my opinion, that agenda here in this movie, the case the filmmakers are submitting for our approval, is that Kevin Spacey is a really damaged soul that, while maybe not engaging in any kind of criminal behavior, his coming on to these men and the way they describe, the way they're accusing him of, is something that needs to be directly addressed. And while maybe that behavior is not criminal, it's nonetheless inappropriate behavior. Some people say it's bad behavior. I think it's bad behavior that's damaging to other people, and it's behavior that needs to be called out and discussed. And I think that's what this movie works best as, like a sort of a conversation starter, a conversation piece. And while Spacey may have been recently acquitted of sexual assault charges in that 2023 London courtroom, the ethical and arguably more moral verdict's still out on this guy. Because, I mean, what I see is there's been throughout Spacey's life this pattern that he keeps repeating over and over. If any of these stories are true, and I think they do indeed need to be taken seriously, this pattern of inappropriate behavior of a sexual nature directed at other people. Yeah. And what's notable about all these accusations is that, I think of Cosby and Weinstein. These accusations are not only being denied by Spacey, but he himself, he's never addressed them that we know of in terms of seeking out, say, professional help. Right. And also the other thing that this movie brings out is that Spacey is an A-list Hollywood actor, and this big-time rejuvenator of the old Vic in London. He abused his power. I think it's clear he abused the power that he had, and the power that he had over certain individuals. So this is a movie that will elicit a lot of discussion, and one that I think, except for the music score, presents the issues pretty fairly. And this movie is not whether about Spacey should be uncanceled. That's a different topic entirely. I know A-list celebrities now are coming out like
I was going to say,
but
saying, "Hey, bring him back. He's fine.
Yeah,
he was it."
Well, maybe, but that distracts from the points this movie makes about what Kevin Spacey has allegedly done, and which deal directly with this guy's behavior towards his colleagues, and most importantly to the young people who he should have been mentoring more, and who by and large were fooled by his real intentions, really, which is to, get him in the sack, really.
It was kind of a bummer when I found all these things out about Kevin Spacey, because I really liked his work on the screen. Yeah. And so then I felt like I don't necessarily want to watch Kevin Spacey movies anymore. And I don't want to watch The House of Cards anymore. And I don't want to do any of this anymore because I don't want to support this guy. But maybe and this is the age-old question, art versus artist, right?
Right. Yeah. Well, it's hard, Kim. It's really hard that once you find out about somebody and what they may or may not have done, whatever. It's very, very difficult to separate what about them as people from the characters that they create on television or on the screen. It's very, very hard. I don't know, cancel culture, to me, I'm not for it. But I mean, that's another conversation. It's a related conversation, but I think in the case of this movie, it distracts from really what the issue is. Right. And it's fascinating. This happens a lot with whenever this is what I found in my life, whenever anybody takes a real specific stand, and the immediate reaction to that stand is one of defensiveness and unwillingness to actually address the points that were brought up in the taking of that stand, and a sort of like a defensive rationalization of either why that person is wrong or where they're mistaken or whatever. That, to me, that's telling. It's what's the quote, the Bard quote? Methinks the lady doth protest too much. Right. I think it's significant when, when people are very, very defensive about, something they may or may have done. Usually that means like, well, maybe, I'm not saying in every case, but I'm saying, well, if you are so certain and are so certain of yourself, why do you find it so necessary to be that defensive? I don't know. Just my opinion on that. But
well, I guess it's a look into him and understanding more why all this happens.
Why and for me it's sort of like, because I've interacted with Kevin Spacey before. I moderated a Q&A with him, and some of the things I experienced with him in terms of the way, not the physical advances, but some of the things that I experienced with him that are described in this movie, I experienced too, and that's all I'm going to say about that.
Wow.
I always thought there was something off, always. Okay. And this wasn't just one interaction. It was 1, 2, 3, 4. Like, what is going on here? I mean, what's going on? But that was it. But it's interesting listening to these men talk about certain things that weren't sexual, that were maybe related to what they had experienced, about his behavior and about how he would look at you and how he would react towards you when you were the only person in the room, how he may have reacted towards you if you were in a public situation with him. It's, it all tracks. It tracks. I'm not saying, I don't know what it means. I'm just saying it tracked. And that was interesting for me when I watched this film. And, when I heard about the sexual allegations, I thought, I wasn't surprised that people are saying that. Whether or not it's true, I don't know.
Well, it doesn't bode well for this next movie that it's kind of in the middle of the pack, because it's the one I was actually looking forward to.
Well,
I love John Krasinski.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, if featuring actor John Krasinski. He wrote and directed this. John Krasinski did. He's the author behind that very scary series of Quiet Place movies. Oh my God, that John Krasinski has written and directed this family movie, which is so well intentioned. I'm somewhat loath to diss it, but I think I'm gonna have to, because I don't think it's a very good movie. And I know I'm showing my hand here early this week on a lot of these movies. I know nobody sets out to make a bad movie unless you're an Andy Warhol or Tommy Wiseau or Ed Wood, but good intentions are just that, and they do not necessarily a good movie make. So IF is short for, you know what it's short for?
No.
Imaginary Friends.
Oh, okay.
Okay. And this is a kid's movie. It's a blend of live action and animation. And it's about this 12-year-old girl whose mother dies of cancer and whose father, played by John Krasinski, is about to undergo heart surgery. Okay. So there's a little bit of concern, that maybe something's going to happen to dad the way something happened to mom. But anyway, So cut to, in the midst of all this, this little girl, 12-year-old girl, beautifully played, by the way, by Kaylee Fleming. I don't know if I've ever seen her in anything, but wonderful performance by this young actress. One day she happens to just see this strange purple creature called Blue. He's called Blue, but he's purple, who turns out to be an imaginary friend, an if. And the if is accompanied by this strange man played by Ryan Reynolds, who, it just so happens, turns out to be working with a whole bunch of other imaginary friends. Anyway, after discovering that she, the girl, can see these imaginary friends in everybody else's, this young girl goes on this adventure with the Ryan Reynolds character to reconnect ifs that were forgotten with their kids. In other words, their kids stop seeing these imaginary friends. Okay.
I like the idea.
Don't you? Doesn't it sound neat? Mm-hmm. Well, despite some interesting, first ideas, and I say first, quote unquote, because in my opinion, this script needed several rewrites until they got it right. And they may never have gotten it right, because this is just a weird movie. It just sits on the screen. It just lays there. It never ever really comes to life, let alone fully coming to life. I kept giving it the benefit of the doubt, though, until about 1 hour into it. I'm going, why is this movie so bad? Why is it so dull? It's colorful. It has some good ideas. Why isn't it working? And you know, Kim, too, how family movies, they'll try to incorporate life lessons into their stories for kids
Sure.
to consider and learn and emulate. Well,
Always
yeah,
the moral of the story.
yeah, right. Well, I'm not so sure I agree with the one life lesson that this movie seemed to be proposing. And it's that we should always have imaginary friends. And I'm going, I don't know. I think that certainly at one point in one's life, when one grows from child to, say, adult, that this assertion, and they make this assertion in the movie that we should always have imaginary friends, might be construed by some to mean maybe, hey, maybe this person needs to spend amounts of time in the psychiatric ward of a hospital,
Right.
or maybe in a mental institution somewhere. If Krasinski meant something else, or say if he was trying to create a metaphor through that notion of the importance of still having and holding on to our imaginary friends, no matter what your age is, and
Right.
equating that with meaning that maybe we should never let go of our childlike wonder and our attitude towards our life and our work.
Mm-hmm.
If that's what he was going for, it doesn't play in the way he does it here. And this notion of all kids needing their imaginary friends, especially when they grow up. And all you got to do if we're depressed, folks, or if we're in a funk about how crappy life is close our eyes and our imaginary friends will all come rushing back.
Really?
And I'm going, I don't think so. No, rewrite. Anyway, bottom line, I think it's so interesting because I could see this movie working in an alternate universe. In some alternate movie or kid universe, and I'm not even sure I know what that means, because it's very consistent. It's very of a piece, and it's clear that Krasinski had this vision and he wanted to present it in such a way. But I just think I don't know. It didn't work in this movie universe, and it didn't work in this kid's universe. That's all I could say about it. And Again, I don't like to rally people that agree with me and say, hey, other people agree with me. It is interesting, though, that after I saw it and I took my notes and I was thinking about it, I thought, well, did I really miss something? And I looked up a number of reviews, and other critics are saying similar things. Yeah, they're saying similar things. And it's too bad because the imaginary friends are really, really beautifully animated, and they're charming, and but you just don't. I didn't. I mean, you don't go away with any warm fuzzies. No. You just go, what?
Which is weird because it's kind of a day and age in which we hear more and more about how lonely people are, and how people are feeling like they need to have more contact and what have you. So it could have been good,
Well, that's kind of what you just said is kind of, it's there. I think it may even be voiced at some point by one of the characters, the grandmother. The grandmother's played by Fiona Shaw, and she's terrific. But that's what he was going for. But boy, I don't think it worked at all. Too bad, because and I love John Krasinski too. He's a fabulous filmmaker. I think he has some good ideas, but I think because he's been so successful at the box office, I think they just gave him carte blanche. And I think it would have been good if he had a room of writers that maybe questioned about, hey, well, what about this? Like if I was in that writing room, I would have said, wait a minute, John, I don't want to be having imaginary friends when I'm 40 or 50. I think that happens, maybe that might be construed as dementia or something. I don't know. I just didn't think it worked. Yeah.
When you think about real friends, though, I mean, there's an effort to go see them. You spend a little bit of time with them, but really, even if we have family, I mean, I've got kids in the other room, I've got a husband in the other room, but still, the experience of life, you kind of go through it by yourself. You never really have a sidekick along for the ride 100% of the time.
Right.
So this whole imaginary friend idea would be a way for you to always have someone with you. You're never alone. I don't know.
Maybe he should have had you in the writing room. I'm
Something.
serious. No, I'm serious. I think what you've articulated is kind of what he was going for, but it didn't. It'd be interesting to see what you thought of the film. It's a safe movie for kids.
Well, here's the thing about kids movies is there's not a lot of them. So
Yeah.
if one even that you're saying is bad
Yeah.
comes out, kids are probably going to watch it anyway. We're going to see, we're not, maybe we
Right.
won't go to the big movies in the
Yeah.
theater, but
Yeah.
we'll wait for it to come out and this will roll on my TV screen
Yeah,
eventually.
well,
So
yeah, and I would, yeah, it's interesting because see, I saw it. I think there was like one other person there, so I didn't get any kind of audience gauge. Maybe with a theater full of kids, maybe the kids would have gotten it. Maybe they would
Right.
have responded to it. So, and again, to call it a bad movie is really not fair. Because it wasn't badly made. It wasn't like, badly produced. It was
Sure.
obviously very deliberately thought out. A lot of effort was put into it. The special effects are terrific. It's shot beautifully. One of Steven Spielberg's cinematographers, I can't remember his name, the guy that was married to Holly Hunter. Anyway, he's the cinematographer, and it's beautifully done. But when it was over, I was like going, what did I see? What?
Man.
Yeah, anyway.
All right, let's move on. We're going
Yes.
to The Strangers, Chapter 1.
This is a somewhat uninspired rehash of the home invasion genre of movies, where a person or a couple or several people find themselves confined to a restricted area, be it a house or, in the case of this movie, an out-of-the-way hotel room. Well, it's like a cabin. And in that restricted space where there's seemingly no escape, the lives of the people in this space are threatened or rather terrorized by murderous psychopaths bent on them suffering in some severe manner psychologically before they do them in. So this is for this movie, The Strangers, Chapter 1 is first in a planned trilogy of films. I'm guessing that it's some sort of franchise reboot. What else is it that they do in Hollywood these days?
Yeah.
But it was inspired by a really terrific horror movie, Brian Bertino's terrific 2008 horror movie called The Strangers. Believe me, no comparison. But this one's about a couple who are celebrating an anniversary, and they find themselves out in the middle of nowhere in Oregon somewhere. I won't recount all the dumb plot machinations that explain how they got there and why. Anyway, they wind up in a cabin and are terrorized there by these masked crazies. This one's directed by Rennie Harlan, who's had some decent movies. He's got some decent movies in his canon. And for me, the problem with it is that the characters, the couple being preyed upon, they're played by Madeline Pesh and Froy Gutierrez. I'm not unfamiliar with their work. I don't know who would name their kid Froy, but anyway,
Someone from France, perhaps?
Gutierrez is Spanish, though.
Okay.
Froy, F-R. Anyway, I don't know. Anyway, these characters, they do all these really stupid things that any real person thrown in their situation would never, ever actually do. They're clueless, these two, about everything. And everything they do only makes their situation worse. And absolutely none of it is believable. If you think like you're in this life and death situation and you're thinking of what's the worst thing I could do or say, these characters do all of it. So the movie, therefore, can be summed up to me as an artless mess. It shamelessly imitates and arbitrarily throws in every home invasion trope and horror convention without any thought as to how any of that should be put together or make any kind of sense. It's a cheapy ripoff, and I just found it insulting. The filmmakers do make good use of their low budget, though. I must say that the location photography is kind of interesting, and the actual setting is creepy too. It's just that the characters are idiots.
Okay.
They're idiots.
And
you're going, honestly, it's a big no. It's the biggest no of the week. At least, if isn't disreputable, but the Strangers Chapter 1 was a mangy insult next to if. Anyway,
at least the poster's creepy.
Yeah. Well, yeah. The poster looks like, if you're into horror, you might want to see it. And who knows? Horror fans might like it. It gets violent. But I just, and I keep telling myself, don't think about it, just go with it. But really, when they keep topping their stupidity one scene after another, you go, okay, no, I'll compromise, but I'm not gonna
So
give
this
into
is
this
more
nonsense.
than just never go into the basement. This is, yeah.
This is never going to the basement. Don't answer that door. When you hear somebody out there heavy breathing, don't look out the window.
No.
Don't take and then go take a shower. I mean, yeah, whatever. You got it. Yeah.
Amy Winehouse, Back to Black. Is this a biopic?
Yes. Yeah. I said at the beginning we start and end the movie segment this week with a good movie, and and we began with The Last Stop in Yuba County, and are ending with another very good movie called Back to Black, which is a dramatization of the life and music of British singer-songwriter Amy Winehouse. The title Back to Black refers to the titular song and Winehouse's second and sadly final studio album, which got universal acclaim from music critics and had huge commercial success as well. It's one of Britain's all-time best-selling albums. And this is her story. And it's a heavy-duty one of an artist with a unique singing style. Do you know Amy Winehouse, Kim?
Her music, yeah.
Yeah. I know this is an unpopular opinion, but I always took a bit of exception with her as a quote unquote singer. I think she's a brilliant stylist and communicated her songs with electrifying force and dignity, but the quality of her voice sometimes would get on my nerves. The actual vocal sound she produced, I sometimes found a bit grating, and it was particularly annoying too when she would be compared to jazz singers like Sarah Vaughan and Ella Fitzgerald, whose voices were smooth. Mm-hmm. Amy's was edgy and like a sharp knife. And anyway, comparing her to Fitzgerald and Sarah Vaughan, I think misrepresents her actual sound, which to me was more like Billie Holiday, only Billie Holiday had a more honey-like, smoother tone. Anyway, mm-hmm. That aside, Winehouse still was a brilliant stylist and musician, and this movie chronicles all of that, in addition to her relationships, which were tumultuous at best, mm-hmm. AKA dysfunctional and codependent. And she was a lady who struggled with a lot of personal demons of drug and alcohol addiction and bulimia. And she, died from alcohol poisoning at the age of 27. Yeah. So this is a very strong film. It's directed by Sam Taylor Johnson, and it boasts this Oscar caliber performance by Marissa Abella in the poster there as Amy Winehouse, who is she's spectacular. If you didn't know any better, you would swear that this woman is channeling the real thing. Wow. She also does her own singing, and she so powerfully evokes and embodies at every turn the person and artistry of this lady and singer and artist who left this world way too soon.
Who is the actress?
Her name is Marissa Abella.
Okay.
Yeah. I haven't looked at. Yeah. I think she's done some like Netflix series and stuff. I'm not sure. I don't. This is the first time I'm noticing her. But she dominates the picture. I mean, she's in just about every frame. And Kim, musical biopics are hard to pull off without having to adhere too closely to like that standard type template. But the fact that Winehouse died so young, and not meaning to sound morbid here, but the fact that she died at such a young age, it actually might have helped made the telling of her brief life that much easier in that, her life was so compact. It was tumultuous, and it was fiery, and it was full of a lot of ugly stuff. But I think the film succeeds in fully encompassing the essence, certainly of Amy Winehouse, and does so comfortably within the confines of a 2-hour feature film. In a way, her not having lived a life, say, to 60, it just made it easier to tell her brief story. So anyway, Back to Black. It's a very vivid and indelible cinematic portrait of an artist's life cut short.
If you saw Barbie, she was Teen Talk Barbie.
Oh, so yeah, that's right. She was in Barbie. Teen Talk. I don't remember Teen Talk Barbie. Do you remember Teen Talk Barbie?
No.
Yeah. Gee. Yeah,
Yeah.
I want to say, yeah, we won't get started on Barbie.
No,
Although I'm mellowing about Barbie. Well, I never knew. Did you see it, Kim?
I haven't seen it. No, my daughter saw it twice,
Oh,
but I haven't seen it. Yeah.
yeah. Young girls love that movie. All the
Yeah.
young girls that I know love that movie. Yeah. But a lot of women my age kind of felt about it the same way I did, but for different reasons. Anyway,
Right.
yeah. So Winehouse passed away in 2011, and apparently the idea of making a film about her had been kicking around Hollywood for a long time. But now we have this Back to Black, and it is a keeper. It's a strong movie, and it's about dark subjects, but it's not one that it's so well made that it engages you in a way where you're not repulsed. You are just sucked into the world of this lady, and it's a strong dramatic film. And I don't know why they're releasing it so early, because if it was released later in the year, Marissa Abella would definitely get a Best Actress nomination. She's
Would
so
she not
great.
because of the time it was released, or it's still considered, right?
It's obviously eligible and will be considered, but like a lot of films that are released in May and June, by the time we get to the fall and then the studios are really pushing their quote unquote bigger movies, people tend to forget. And so companies have to spend extra amounts of money to remind people that this movie came out in June. But I think she has a good chance because her performance is so good. Wow. And even if the movie sucked, I would recommend it just to see her performance, which is absolutely brilliant. Yeah.
All right, we'll recap it. It's the last stop in Yuma County, and you loved it. You said it was a thrill ride. It was a violent movie, but it was a great movie. You say it's worth it. It's worth the exhaustion you feel at the end of it. Last stop in Yuma County. Spacy Unmasked. You said it was really interesting, and you said you do recommend it. It's worth watching. Yeah.
Yeah, I do. Yeah. Yeah.
If you said it never really goes anywhere, just kind of lays on the screen, and you don't recommend it, correct?
No, in good conscience, I cannot recommend it. But, don't take my word for it. If anything I said sounds interesting, you may want to check it out.
The Strangers, Chapter 1, is not believable. You say this movie's no good. Way too many unbelievable things happen. Not recommended by Tim Sika.
Right.
But Back to Black. You thought this was a great movie, strong film, Oscar caliber performances. Highly recommend.
Right, Kim. And when I said, if anything I said sounds interesting to people that would make it. I used to follow a critic who I will not say because they're still alive. I could never agree with this person. I thought they were always off the mark, but I read their reviews because if they hated the movie, it generally turned out that I would really like it. So,
how funny.
Isn't that funny? Yeah. So anyway, that's why
sometimes sometimes that's the way it is.
Yeah, and when they, they're describing why they hate it, I'm thinking, yeah, but this is what makes it sound so interesting, So anyway, I like to throw that out there for people to consider,
Tim Sika, I'm so glad we had a chance to finally get you on the show today, and we'll put this video out so that everyone will have the information this Friday night. Yeah, and then we'll see it again on Monday. So thank you for coming. Love you. Thank you. Have a great weekend.
Oh, back at you. You have a good weekend too, and we'll talk to you next Friday.
Bye, everybody.
Okay. Bye,
is
Kim.
Bye. That's At the Movies with Tim Sika. And there he goes. Off. Oop, that's not the right thing. Here it is. At the Movies with Tim Sika. There you go. And so we're excited to see all these movies. I think, what's the one you're going to pick? I think I'll go Back to Black is the one that excites me the most that he's talking about. So enjoy it. We will see you on Monday. I hope everyone has a great rest of your Friday and a good weekend as well. Bye, everyone.
The After Party Live would like to thank the following contributors and viewers like you.